Hey guys, this is Prateek from Mr. Phone, and the Moto One Fusion Plus is a very sought after smartphone right now, and rightfully so. It comes with a clean software experience, good performance and very capable cameras. Now, Irshad recently compared the cameras on this phone to the Poco X2 and the Realme 6 Pro, and in that video, a lot of you guys asked us to see if the camera prowess of the Moto One Fusion Plus can actually be improved by using GCam. Well, long story short, it can be, but if you want to know exactly how, then stay tuned because in this video, I'll be comparing the stock camera app on the Moto One Fusion Plus to the GCam port. But guys, before we get on with the video, make sure to hit the bell icon and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already so that you don't miss out on any quality tech content that we put out. Now that you have done that, let's get on with the video. Okay, so the GCam port we'll be testing on the Moto One Fusion Plus today is version 7.3. Now, unfortunately, the auxiliary camera support is not yet enabled for this smartphone, so the wide-angle shots and the macro shots we won't be able to compare, but everything else works, so let's go. Okay guys, before we get on with the comparison, let's take a look at the camera specs of the Moto One Fusion Plus. Now, starting with the quad camera setup at the back, the smartphone comes with a Samsung GW1 sensor, which has been paired with an 8-megapixel wide-angle lens, a 5-megapixel macro lens, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. For selfies, the device gets a 16-megapixel front camera. Alright, starting with the daylight shots, one thing I noticed with the stock camera app was that while the smartphone clicked good, authentic photos with its stock app, the colors often felt muted and the highlights were overexposed when I was shooting outdoors. Take the shot of my garden for instance. Now here you will see that the bark of the tree, which should be brown, is actually slightly greyish on the One Fusion Plus's stock camera photo. Similarly, if you look at another shot of my garden, you'll also notice that the photo with the GCam is significantly more detailed as compared to the one you click with the phone's stock camera. At 100% crop, not only is the fence behind the red flower more detailed, but the leaves on the trees have better definition, and the tree just outside my house with the pink flowers is much more defined too. I'd also like to point out that the impact of sunlight on flat surfaces often leaves overexposed blotches when clicked with the stock camera app. Now, as an example, if you zoom into the now defunct decorative fountain, you'll notice that the rocks appear white, over-sharpened and are void of any texture, which isn't the case. The GCam sample outputs a much better picture as it keeps the highlights in check and retains a reddish texture on the rocks. Furthermore, when clicking objects against the sun, the GCam shot exhibited much better dynamic range, giving equal emphasis to both shadows and the highlights, but with the stock camera app, you'll notice that the shot seems very dark and consequently not as appealing. Coming to the close-ups, the GCam port offered a better output here once again. Now let's start with the photo of the pink flower, which right off the bat exhibits slightly muted colors on the One Fusion Plus's stock camera app. Now, while I agree, the photo from the GCam port is playing up the colors a bit, but I like the end result from the port more. Furthermore, upon a closer crop, you'll notice that there's a weird halo effect around the petals in the stock camera photo, which is not the case with the GCam port's output. Similarly, if we move our attention to the red flower, then here you'll again notice that the colors feel muted on the stock camera app photo. Furthermore, the stock camera app struggled with resolving highlights, and here too there are noticeable white spots in the background. On the flip side, the photo from the GCam port, albeit a bit dramatic, is much better exposed and on the whole looks significantly superior too. I'd also like to point out that shots where you're trying to capture the subject with the sun behind you turned out yellow when clicked with the Moto One Fusion Plus's stock camera app. Now this happened particularly when the subject was in somewhat shadowy area, but through the GCam, not only did I get more accurate colors, but also greater details. Here are two examples of the same. Now coming to the rear portrait shots, you'll notice two things here. Firstly, at a closer crop, the facial details are superior on the GCam port, and secondly, the bokeh cutout around my hair is also tidier. Also, I like the overall colors of the photo a little more too, so this one is an easy win for the GCam port. Now as for selfies, well, the GCam port offers a superior dynamic range here too. Coming to the standard daylight selfies, you'll notice that while the images from the stock camera app are brighter, the details on the face are superior on the GCam port. Furthermore, selfies taken with the GCam mod also have drastically superior dynamic range, which is evident from the sky in the background, which is an overexposed mess on the stock camera app's photo. Portrait photos net a similar result too. Now the bokeh cutout is significantly more impressive and dynamic range is spot on as well. Moving on, the selfies I clicked with the phone under artificial lighting resulted in a better skin tone and facial details too when clicked with the GCam port. Now there was noticeable yellowness on the face in the photos I clicked with the stock camera app, which I didn't fancy all that much. As for low light, well, Motorola's stock camera app definitely clicks a brighter image with and without the night mode turned on. However, the images from the GCam are undoubtedly more polished in the sense that there is lesser lens flaring from a source of light and lesser graininess in the photos too. You could go either way in this department, but personally I prefer the GCam's output as I can bring up the brightness slightly in post since the image has lesser noise. Now on the whole, the GCam port on the Moto One Fusion Plus definitely betters the overall camera output, and I'm sure that down the line there'll be an update which also adds support for auxiliary cameras. But for the time being, do let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this video, and if you did, do give us a big thumbs up. Until next time, this is Prateek from Mr. Phone signing off.